Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News website and shows. And today we have our usual guest in Ewan Downey from i-80 Gold. This company just continues to put out great results from both Granite Creek and at their Ruby Hills. The news we're going to talk about today is from Ruby Hill. They had another great news release. Ewan, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks for having me on again, Allan.
Man, I can't believe it. Another great news release. Let me just tell everybody what the headlines are from the highlights of the news release. 13 grams over 6 meters, 14 grams over 14.2 meters, 11 grams over 9.9, 9 grams over 51 meters. Well, you guys are just hitting it out of the park at Ruby Deeps.
Yeah, Ruby Hill has definitely moved up, in my opinion, to become our flagship asset. Obviously, as you know, we've been hitting significant polymetallic mineralization at the Hilltop zone, but Ruby Hill truly, we call it internally as it has the ultimate optionality. We have oxide gold mineralization, open pit opportunities. We have oxide underground opportunities. There's refractory underground. And then there's the skarn mineralization in Blackjack, and now the new Hilltop discovery. So it's just a phenomenal property, and the optionality it provides for us to grow our business. But the Ruby Deeps deposit, where the results we just published were, that was the final drilling we did in 2022 in advance of doing an updated resource, and it continues to expand the footprint along trend both to the north and the south, demonstrating excellent continuity, great ground conditions, and we think we're going to see a very significant increase in our resource ounces in Ruby Deeps based on the drilling, including yesterday's results.
Well, and most of your drilling has returned higher grades than the historical drilling that was done on that Ruby Deeps deposit.
Well, I think the historical results were good grades as well. It's just the resource that was done by Waterton, or by Wood is the consultant that was hired to do the resource for Waterton prior to us acquiring it. I think their search ellipses were probably too big. There wasn't enough drilling, so not enough refinement in the resource. So it was, in our opinion, very conservative at 6 grams. And when you look at the results we've been publishing, drilling out both the 426 and the Ruby Deeps deposit, we've consistently been hitting mineralization well in excess of 6 grams. And when we publish the new resource, I'm expecting a very significant increase in the overall grade of that deposit.
Well, and that brings up the subject of 426 and Ruby Deeps. 426 is sitting right underneath the pit, which gives you easy access from the bottom of the pit, and then that gives you easy access to the Ruby Deeps. And 426 has a nice amount of oxides in it.
Yeah, 426, the upper probably 25%. So for probably the first couple of years of mining, we see definitely the opportunity to be mining mainly oxides prior to getting into the sulfides. And if you recall, we bought Ruby Deeps mainly for the refractory sulfide Ruby Deeps deposit. So some of the big positives we've seen since we acquired the project were the fact that we've seen a bit more oxide than we were expecting. So that could result in a bit earlier production. And definitely the polymetallics with the zinc, lead, silver, gold mineralization has been a huge surprise for us. And we expect to have the permits in place to start driving the underground decline sort of around mid-year next year. So we're able to fast track this project to development and production, hopefully.
And I guess you envision that most of the material from this would be going to your refractory plant. But now you've also got the capability to process oxides right at Ruby Hill, right?
Yeah, we just released a few weeks back our first work that we've done at restarting the Ruby Hill plant, because we don't just have the Lone Tree processing facility. We also have a processing facility at Ruby Hill, and it's our goal to use that facility, not just to sit on it and say, well, we have a processing facility. So we're looking at various options, but the real long-term vision we have for the processing facility at Ruby Hill is to convert it to a flotation plant so that we can do a concentrate, and in several years time we'll be a diversified producer that produces gold, silver, lead, zinc, and maybe at some point even copper.
I like the sounds of that. That's interesting. You kind of took me by a surprise there a little bit, and that would be a nice mix with adding some copper in there.
Yeah, we think that the Ruby Hill property it's got really the if you look at the textbook geological system for finding a major porphyry deposit, Ruby Hill has all the ingredients. We have the disseminated gold mineralization like you see at Mineral Point. We have the distal CRD mineralization like we're seeing at Hilltop and that Paycore has to the south at Fad. We're seeing the distal skarn, so the zinc lead rich skarn that we have at Blackjack. And so the big question is, we've got all the ingredients for one of these massive systems. Where is the porphyry? And our geophysical work we've done has identified a pretty major anomaly just on the west side of the pit at depth. And it's a pretty compelling target. It does suggest that maybe that's where we're going to find the porphyry source, but it's a longer term exploration target. We have seen locally some reasonable copper grades in some holes, so there is indications of copper in the system. And I think the best case scenario for any mining company is having different options of what you can mine, because metal prices fluctuate, and often when precious metals are going up, base metals are going down, or vice versa. So having a bit of diversity, in my opinion, never hurts a company.
Well, and what you described there is a classic model of this type of mineralization that comes off of porphyry. But I would add that you're finding some tremendous stuff in the continuum of that model.
Yeah, definitely the Carlin type gold mineralization that we're seeing at Ruby is truly exceptional. The recent discovery of the Hilltop deposit is it's early days. We're just starting to drill it off. It was just announced about a month ago, and the follow-up drilling 2 weeks ago, which has been really, really good for our share price because of the mineralization. But the per ton grades of that deposit or that zone are off the charts, and we've expanded our drill program by about another 25-30% this year, just to continue following up on that polymetallic zone.
Well, when you've got that CRD and it's not really supposed to kick out high-grade gold, but it looks like you've got an overprint of Carlin's type high-grade gold there, that probably came up along the same structural corridor.
Yeah, definitely it's an unusual CRD because of the gold grades. But if you look at the history of Eureka District, there was 100 years of mining starting in the 1860s, and all of it was CRD, and all of it was gold-rich CRD. So it was really an unusual camp. And in 1966 was kind of the last of the CRD exploration, and the camp sat idle until Homestake came along, did some consolidation in the area, but they weren't targeting the CRD when they came back and sort of renewed the exploration in the Eureka camp. They were really targeting just Carlin style mineralization in that district. So they largely completely ignored the polymetallic opportunity, and we see that as a true opportunity.
Well, and the truth machine is telling you of how significant an opportunity that is.
Yeah, certainly. It's that's actually been a lot of the excitement we're seeing in our name these days, is the fact that not only are we developing some of the highest grade gold deposits I think you'll find in North America, but all of a sudden we hit some of the highest grade base metal or polymetallic mineralization. So I think it's a kind of an eye-opener that the market's just starting to get caught on to.
With Bonanza overprint gold of 10 meters is 60 grams.
Yeah, 60 grams gold with almost 20% lead zinc is kind of unheard of. And obviously that also had over 20 ounces per ton silver. So those type of grades are pretty unusual. And because of we are stepping out, we continue to intersect mineralization, we continue to get a little more optimistic with every hole, because obviously a lot of discoveries, you drill one good hole, you drill a second one, you miss. So we've got 5 into the upper zone, all 5 have hit. We're soon going to be releasing results from the lower zone. I'd say we have a similar hit ratio in that zone. So both the upper and the lower horizon appear to be completely open for expansion. And the drilling that we continue to do visually is we're seeing what we're hoping to see in most holes.
And in reality, you're only in a little portion of that structural corridor that goes for 1.5 kilometers to the edge of your property. Then you go on the other side of your boundary, and and Paycore is hitting similar kind of stuff, high grade CRD with a gold overprint in it.
Yeah, definitely. It looks to be a pretty big system. The overall footprint, as you said, the strike length between us and Paycore is about 2 kilometers of almost entirely untested geology in this structure. But when you look at the widths, where we're drilling the lower Hilltop, we have the upper Hilltop zone, and then further east, we have the Blackjack deposit. It's a structural corridor that is 600 meters wide. And so when you're looking at 600-meter wide corridor, that we don't expect 600 meters of high grade mineralization, but within that you expect to find high grade pods or deposits within that structure. It's definitely, I think, a world-class opportunity.
Just on the CRD alone, let alone the gold over in Ruby Deep's 426 and some other stuff you've hit there.
Yeah, definitely. So it's definitely moved up in priority in terms of our company's priorities at especially in exploration. At the same time, as you know, we're mining at Granite Creek. We're getting plus 10 gram of material we're mining there. We're, I guess, about 2/3 of the way into our decline into Cove. Cove is at 10.9, almost 11 grams per ton. So Ruby Deeps is one of 3 high-grade core assets we have, but the upside opportunity, in my opinion, at Ruby Hill is number 1 in our portfolio, and Granite Creek with the discovery of the South Pacific Zone is number 2, and our original property, Cove, has gone from the number 1 project to number 3 in our portfolio, and an 11 gram deposit being number 3 in your portfolio is a pretty good place to be.
Yeah, and getting back to the Ruby Hill, that the distribution of the gold and the CRD, the gold in the CRD, it's suggestive of a big, powerful mineralizing system. And then you showed some of your geophysics with slices at different levels, and it's not total arm waving to think that there's some big pump below all of this.
Well, we know there's a pump somewhere in the area. The porphyry, if there is a big porphyry that's been really the heat engine for everything that's gone on, and recall that there's mineralization to the south of us on Paycore's ground, and Golden Lake is intersecting both Carlin and some CRD mineralization, and Timberline to the south of that is seeing some CRD type mineralization, some really good grades in Carlin type zones. So this is a major 10-kilometer system of mineralization, but so far the porphyry has been elusive, but there hasn't really been any concerted effort looking for the roots of the system done before. And we've just started that project, and as you said, we've got this big anomaly. It just surprisingly happened to occur right underneath the pit. So we're hopeful that that's the heat engine is right under the pit, but
For maybe
Some-
the whole corridor from you, Paycor, Golden Lake and Timberline.
Yeah, it could be, but somewhere in there should be a big porphyry that's sort of feeding these fault structures. And it's, where is that porphyry? Is it on our ground? Is it on Timberline's ground? Where is
Who
it? So
knows?
for us, it's just starting to step back and take a look. There's been a lot of historic geophysical data, gravity, deep seeing magnetics by Barrick in the area. And so we're looking at where are the potential big magnetic highs, which would be indicative of a potentially porphyry system. And lo and behold, the big anomaly happens to be right at Ruby Hill Pit. So
Well, and that doesn't surprise me because you've got this gold mineralization right beside the pit, the CRD, the disseminated stuff. Something has to be driving all that.
yeah, and then recently, it's not something we make a lot of news about, but we've seen up to 0.3% moly and some narrower intercepts in some of our drilling we've been doing. So we're starting to see a bit of moly, some copper mineralization, elevated bismuth. A lot of the pathfinders you'd want to see when you're proximal to one of these big porphyry systems. So while we don't try to, promote it too much, it's not in our presentation. It's definitely something that we've got our eyes and ears open for. Is if there's this opportunity in the area, we want to be the ones who find it, not somebody else.
I don't blame you. And there's lots of evidence that something pretty fantastic has been happening there, because you look at all of that mining that went on from I-80, Paycor, Golden Lake, Timberline. There's lots of evidence there from these old mining operations that something was happening in a big way.
Yeah, definitely. We do think this is a, if you look at a lot of the major mining camps, like the Turquoise Ridge operation for Nevada Gold Mines, or the Carlin district for Nevada Gold Mines, or Cortez, it's not just a single mine. There's numerous mines in these bigger structures. The Gold Rush discovery that Nevada Gold Mines is just building is immediately adjacent to the mines they've been mining for years. So there's these sort of 3 or 4 major systems in Nevada. And we think that the size of the system in the Ruby Hill Eureka area is on par with those major deposits. It's just been a lot less exploration. And especially since the 1960s, the Carlin deposits were found after that. So the exploration in our district down in Eureka has really been just a bit of cursory exploration here and there, not a really concerted effort. So we think there's a massive opportunity there, and with every drill hole, we get more excited.
Well, and to be able to put Ruby Hill above Granite Creek, where you've got over 600 meters of continuity of high grade, and it's open, and you keep going to the north, and you run into a 25 million ounce gold deposit in the same fault, in the same kind of rocks. To put that at second is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I just think that the optionality that Ruby Hill provides, we're upgrading the Blackjack deposit to become a 43-101 resource, and we think it's going to be a pretty sizable kind of skarn zinc deposit. And Hilltop, we're just starting to drill out, and stepping out, it's getting bigger and bigger, and it could in itself be one of the highest grade new deposits you'll find anywhere in the world.
In any metal.
In any metal, yeah. And it's open to the south. Paycor's having some good success to the south. So just the upside opportunity there, even though we're drilling right beside a 25 million ouncer at Granite Creek, our deepest hole is 16.4 grams over 15.5 meters. So it's completely open. When you're right, when we're talking about that as being our second place asset, I think it speaks to what we think we're onto at Ruby Hill. And it's nice to see that actually in our share price, we're starting to see some of the appreciation of what we're doing.
Yeah, in fact, I've talked about that recently. I did a report on just technical indicators, and You guys are aggressively above your 200-day moving average and your 50-day moving average. And the 50-day looks like it's ready to go through the 200-day, which is a golden cross. And, you know, golden crosses usually lead to much higher prices. And then you got to ask about the catalysts. And you got catalysts coming for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, we're expecting to put out a new resource estimate for Granite Creek, hopefully by the end of the first quarter of next year, which will include the South Pacific Zone discovery that is essentially quadrupled the strike length of our mineralization at that project. We're planning on putting out a new resource for the Ruby Deeps deposit that we are expecting a pretty significant increase in the average grades that should be out in the first half of the year. We're going to do an inaugural resource on the Blackjack polymetallic zone at Ruby Hill. So there's 3 new resources going to be released in the new years, which will augment our already, I think, pretty respectable, more than almost 6.5 million ounces measured and indicated, and over 8 million ounces of inferred resource. So combined over 14.5 million ounces of gold, we're expecting a pretty big increase to that.
Wow. Wow. Ewan, keep at it, man. You guys are awesome. And I'm glad to see you guys getting that recognition in the market. You know, and the big thing that I think people should pay attention to is the continuity of what you're finding. We see projects that have sporadic distribution of high grade, and that's not going to make a mine. You've got excellent continuity at Ruby Hill, at Granite Creek, at McCoy Cove, you know, and I think you're exceeding your checklist that you started the year, your path to success checklist. You kind of got to rewrite it this year.
Yeah, we had to rewrite it. There's a few things we're not going to deliver on the timeline we put in the checklist, like the resources for the properties are supposed to be this year, but we're still drilling them because we've had so much success. So it's delayed. As Matt and our team says, he goes, well, this is a Hollywood problem. So it's like, well, this deposit's wide open. So do we stop and just say, well, no more drilling just because we want to do a resource? Or there's some things that as you're doing in exploration that goes towards your mine planning. And so sometimes delaying it is for a good reason. And the delays in our releases in some of our items have been mainly because of success, not because, all of a sudden we've had no results out of Granite Creek, so they're hitting nothing. So they're trying to find a little bit more to make their numbers look better. It was just because our last hole 16 grams. Do we stop or do we drill a few more? And
keep going. Awesome. Well, Ewan, we planned on making this short, but you always got so much to talk about. I'm going to let you go and close things up, but thanks a lot, Ewan. Keep it up. Keep up the good work, man.
Okay, thanks for your time. And I'm at the Scotia conference, so I'm going to jump off, let you finish without me, but really appreciate you having me back on the show.
Anytime, Ewan. So okay. There you go, folks. Yeah. Sounds good. Okay. Thanks, Bye. Ewan. There you go, folks. I-80 Gold has what I think is a tremendous opportunity for Ewan to be able to say that the Granite Creek project that now has over 600 meters of strike length of excellent continuity of high grade is a #2 project, and Ruby Hill is the #1 project, is quite a remarkable statement on its own. But you look at what the Truth Machine is telling you, and you've got the Ruby Deeps discovery. Above that, you've got the 426 zone with excellent high-grade continuity and really mineable rock that will be low cost. And that's on the west side of the pit. On the south side of the pit, they're hitting the CRD with high-grade base metals and precious metals. As Ewan said, 10 grams or 10 meters of 60-gram gold and extreme high-grade silver. This is a really special project. And they're also getting indications that there might be a porphyry below that's pumping all this mineralization. So, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think that i-80 Gold is on a path to success like a young Barrick. And now I think I'm even comfortable in saying that I think that they're doing a better job than a young Barrick. So if they keep on this path, they're going to grow into a multi-billion-dollar company, which gives investors an awfully good opportunity where its current valuation is. And as always, my shows are for information purposes only. You need to speak with your financial advisors and do your homework before making any investment decisions. A good place to start that is on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News. I've done a bunch of interviews with Ewan Downey because they're a sponsor of my shows. So we get to put out a lot of content. Yeah, I say, even if your homework only consisted of going to their website and looking at the headlines from their news releases this year, it's an eye opener. So do that homework, speak with your financial advisors, and go check out their website, look at their news releases and corporate presentations, and I'm very confident you'll be impressed. On that note, have a great day and we'll talk to you soon.